And we're back with Jason Glover, designer of Four Tribes, Down Dwarf, and the upcoming game Stew.
Welcome to Design Diary, the podcast where you get to look inside my board game design notebook as well as what's going on inside my head. We look at a new word each day from the sense of mechanics, tone, theme, or inspiration for a full game. Today's word is
Recuse, to disqualify oneself as judge in a particular case broadly, to remove oneself from participation to avoid a conflict of interest. And we have Jason Glover here today to explain his design based on Recuse. What do you got?
Okay, well, this time I went two different routes. I'll start with the first one. I'll just read what I have here. So perhaps you are a powerful lawyer or politician, and there is a case or an issue that you should recuse yourself from for obvious reasons. The goal would be to take bribes and be crooked. So players would essentially play as one of these I went the route of a politician.
Yeah.
So each player would be a politician of some sort, and you would be taking bribes, and you'd also at the same time be attempting to cover up your tracks. And I went for a mechanic on this, pressure luck.
Okay.
But kind of with a little bit of a twist. So I figured like a central deck. Maybe not a very large deck, so that it'd be easy to memorize after a few plays what cards were actually in there on purpose. And then you would have different monetary values for the different size of bribes. And then you would also have ways to cover your tracks, maybe like a paper shredder or whatnot, whatever would be thematic. And then you would, in turn, draw two cards and decide which card you want to keep for yourself as secret, and then place the other card face up, so it'd be some sort of open information, so everyone would have the pool of knowledge from what cards are actively on the table. I think that goes back to having the smaller deck. So if you had, I don't know how many cards it would be, but it would be a few enough cards that you
sort of whittle it down.
Yeah, you'd be like, oh, someone probably has that card, and you'd be like, then it's going to become a bluffing sort of situation where you're going to have to figure out who you think is actually taking these bribes. And I think what would trigger the end of the game, so it'd have to end at some point. So I think having the small deck, if you run out of those cards, then everyone has to reveal their cards.
Okay.
And if you've taken more bribes than you can possibly cover up, then you're a bust and you're the loser. So some sort of scoring mechanism there.
Yeah.
But the accusation, if you accuse someone rightly, you score more points. And if you accuse them wrongly, obviously there'd be some sort of negative bonus to that, or negative penalty to that. Let's see what else I have. I think that's pretty much where I wrote down there. I think the idea of having the central information being open information cards let all players gain some info. I just went over that. Secret personal cards will be money or bribes. Let's see. So the round would end when one player accuses another player, or if the cards run out. So that was my first idea for a game. I know it's sort of not necessarily recuse. You're not actually
disqualifying yourself.
So I mean, that could be worked into it somehow. I mean, you could say I'm out.
Yeah, exactly. That's all it takes is I'm out.
Yeah, you have the option of saying I'm out, and then then you bust the other players.
Yeah.
If you have enough to cover your tracks, and you can just say I'm out of this or whatnot. And then the other idea that came up was maybe a jury duty type game, because obviously you go to court. You're thinking of lawyers or whatnot all the time when you're thinking of that word recuse.
There aren't a lot of court games, right? Do you know of any?
No, I'm sure they've been made, but I can't think of one, to be honest.
It's gamey. There's with the way the juries work, and
you have all these mechanics in place.
Yeah.
You have 12 pool. You can manipulate the jury and all this stuff. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why there's not more games. That'd be pretty fun, especially with like Law and Order. Get that IDW to get that
exactly
IP, and bam, there you go. So what did I have here for this one? Evidence pool builds in a central the table. Players have secret identity and attributes that may correspond with the case or evidence. So this one really kind of goes at it more truly to the word. So you'd have some sort of pool of each player would have some sort of identity, who they are, where they work possibly, or some way that could be connected to whatever the case might be. And then parts of the case start being drawn from some sort of the deck and placed in the central area. And then players have to basically know when the perfect timing is to say, hey, don't want to be part of this case. So I don't know how exactly it would work. I wrote here, objective is to recuse or withdraw yourself from the case when too many of your attributes correspond with the case. Timing would be key, but I don't have a whole lot more in as far as the mechanics or how that would play out. But I felt that'd be kind of a fun theme for sure. Where you would identify with whatever this character is that your persona that you're playing, and then when's the right time? Oh, this guy that's under investigation or whatnot or being tried works at the same company I work for, so I should probably back out. But there'd be some sort of pressure luck scoring mechanism in there to make you not want to. So
you definitely have to
figure that out. Maybe you're once again it's back to bribes or something. I don't know. So there's something in there.
Before this, we were talking about solo games too, and there could be something cool in solo where it's basically the game's against you, and it's just building up, and you're just going for that high score before you just say done. Game over.
Yeah, for sure. It could definitely be a possibility.
I had we mentioned court games. Like years ago, I was working on a game with my brother-in-law called Illegal, and it was ILL, like in caps, legal. And the whole concept of the game was you were going to court and you knew you were guilty and you knew you were going to get charged or something along those lines. And the whole goal was to get everybody sick. And you had to work your way from yourself to like the prosecutor to the jury, all the way up to the judge. Like you just had to shake hands and get people sick. And then to get that judge removed so a better judge came in that would rule in your favor.
Oh, boy.
And it was just terrible. We had this picture. We had a drawing for it. And, it was worker placement. You're putting yourself in these areas to shake hands. And just,
so you went as far as actually putting
we did prototype it. Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
it
wow.
was,
Wow.
Yeah, it was the worst idea of all time. But I will design from a title many times. Obviously, if I'm making this dumb podcast, if I have a good title, I'm like, we can make a game around this.
That is a great title.
But yeah,
that's a funny theme. I can see like a party game where you're just literally trying to get people sick and play it at cons. You could be where it all began, where the con crowd started.
Oh, just finding the root, what is it? Patient zero.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
That's where it started. It started with Jason Tagmeyer in that game. That's where it started.
Yeah, people. I won't be able to go anywhere. Oh man, I haven't seen you at any cons. Do you do cons?
I've been to Gen Con a few times. I do a lot of protospiels, and I like that. It's sort of my deal. The whole idea of being in a booth all day.
Oh, I hate it.
I can't do it. And as a small publisher, I do most of my sales online. So I mean, I'm sure if I went to a con, I could sell I'd probably sell a decent amount of stock, but I don't know. I haven't gotten to that point where I felt it necessary.
I mean, the first time Button Shy did a real con, we did PAX. Philly. It was Philly. It was 2 minutes from my house, so it was really easy to do. But it's totally different than when I go to Gen Con and just hang out.
Absolutely. That's what I'd want to do. When I went to Gen Con, I was hanging out. I was over at the Calliope booth hanging out or doing whatever.
Yep.
And that's what I'd prefer doing that. Or that's why, like I said, I like the protospiels. So I'm hanging out with other small publishers and designers and people who actually just honestly want to play test games. So, and that's my people. So
are there? See, I'm East Coast, so it's like Unpub. Unpub is our protospiel.
Yes, yeah, that's exactly. They're slightly different from what I understand.
That's what I hear. Like protospiel seems like
you're more, from what I understand, you're more pitching to publishers. Correctly,
sort of.
Yeah, but you have a set up table, correct? That you have the whole time.
Yeah, it's like you have a table. You're set up. The general public's playing. Other designers are playing if they don't have people at their booth. And starting a couple years ago, there started to be a better publisher presence there, where you could set up appointments and publish and pitch to them. But is there general public at Protospiel, or is it mostly just designers?
There is general, but you have to have a ticket. It's like $5 for general public playtester to come in. But that's like for the whole weekend. They're basically begging people to come in.
Yeah.
But it sounds pretty much the same, except at a Protospiel, you don't really, it's kind of almost frowned upon to kind of set up your table and take over a table.
Okay,
You're kind of meant to, here's my game. What did you bring?
Yeah,
and then
I like that.
And then someone else opens up there, and you literally will sit at one table for 5-6 hours, and you'll play every designer or publisher's game there, and it's just great feedback, and just obviously, the community is for the most part pretty awesome people. So
that's cool. I got to make it out there sometime.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, it was great having you. It was great chatting, and just tell everybody how they can get in touch with you.
You can find me on Twitter at Grey Gnome. I'm also on Facebook. You just look up Grey Gnome Games, and the website is greygnome.com. So pretty simple.
Awesome. Well, thanks, and I'm looking forward to making our game together.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. 1 week.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
Yep.
I'll see
Take
you.
care.